Hi, good afternoon, everyone in India, and good morning to everyone in Netherlands and Europe. This is the continuing interview series with the LabVIEW champions and LabVIEW personalities from all over the world. Today, we have the fresh new LabVIEW champion all the way from Netherlands. We'll be learning about his journey of LabVIEW as well as through the LabVIEW community and different challenges he has faced and different aspiring adventure he had through the LabVIEW ecosystem. So with further ado, I would like to introduce you the newest LabVIEW champion member of our LabVIEW champions community, Pascal Heinen. Yes,
Hello.
Pascal, welcome to the show, to the interview. And first of all, congratulations to you for becoming the LabVIEW champion. Yeah, it's up to you now.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me. It's really an honor to do these interviews. It's really good. Yes. So like you said, my name is Pascal Heinen. I'm from the Netherlands. I currently work for VI Technologies, which is a LabVIEW company, and yeah. So I started LabVIEW in 2007 with LabVIEW 7.0. And since the first time I saw LabVIEW, I was immediately hooked. I liked it. I saw a block diagram. I thought, yes, this is. I'd like to know more about this. And since then, in the last 12 years, I did more and more LabVIEW, and in the end, it's my full-time job. Yeah, so I started doing LabVIEW in my first company. So after I become an engineer, I started working in a German company that makes micro optics. It's a more mechanical-based company, so they did more machining of the optics. And I was the first electrical engineer to enter there. And in the beginning, I did electrical work, designed PCBs, etc. And but there was a customer who ordered optics at the company, and he said, please do the quality assurance, the quality control with the software that I provide you. And that software was programmed in LabVIEW.
Wow.
And my employers immediately saw the benefits, that if we could make the software and use that software as the basis, we have full control at what we are measuring, how we are storing it, how we are analyzing it, etc. So they asked me if I was interested in using LabVIEW, and I did not know LabVIEW at that moment in time. So they showed me a block diagram, and I said, okay, I want to learn this. I had some program experience in C and Pascal, a little bit in Java. Java was later on. So I had C and Pascal. And then, I started to figure out how the program worked and how we could use that to make our own program. And in the beginning, we had two types of cameras. One was Firewire, and the other one, I cannot remember which one it was, and a power supply. So what you did is you take an optic, shoot a laser through it onto the camera, and do an analysis on the image that you have, and that says something about the quality of the optic. It was because I was very successful with starting with LabVIEW. I think everybody was very successful because LabVIEW was very easy in the beginning. That was also because within a few hours I had the camera running and I had an image on the screen. I thought to myself, okay, this is easy. I can do this, and that was also a trap because I did not look around on the internet. I did not ask help from Natural Instruments. I had no peers in that company. So I tried what I thought was best and tried to figure out how to get the program running. And the first version of that application, which was a test stand, did around 30 seconds of calculations for one optic. So you shot an image, you clicked calculate, and it took 30 seconds. I analyzed that program in a few years later, and now I know why it took 30. So there were for loops that integrated to 3 billion, and then go back to 0, and then stop. That it was not very well done, but it was enough to get us started back then. Yeah,
yes.
and yeah. So that's how I started with LabVIEW.
Yeah, Pascal, like you have mentioned that like you started alone, like working on the LabVIEW. You encountered somewhere, and then like you were like controlling so many cameras and everything. And it's not only your experience, but like many people, including myself. For example, let's say like I built some application few years ago when I was not, like using LabVIEW properly. And then now, like when I go back, like it's kind of like a funny, isn't it? You don't even understand, like how can I write this kind of code and everything.
Yeah,
So
sure.
like yeah. So like when was So when was your first time like you actually met someone like who was implementing the proper way of writing a code? So can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah. So at this company I talked about, they got a project for developing a medical device which had that make use of lasers and their optics, and they wanted to write an embedded software application for it. And they said to me, "Okay, you are going to do that." And I was horrified at the notion, because I was struggling to get all the applications running and maintaining them. Because I was not doing scalability, I was not doing reuse correctly, because I was all doing it myself, and I thought, okay, I'm the best, I can do this. But for a medical device, I thought, okay, I need help. I cannot do this alone. I have no idea how to write embedded software. So I contacted Digital Instruments, and they agreed to give me a startup assistant. So an application engineer from NI came to the company, sat next to me, and helped me program a compact Rio, because that was the hardware that we wanted to use for the medical device. And that was very scary, because that was the first time that somebody who knows LabVIEW and had more look at my code. And and I remember that my employer and my colleagues were sitting around me, and I was totally dependent on his reaction, like, is he positive? Is he? But frankly, so yet now in hindsight, I know he does that more often, so he knows how to react on on that kinds of code. It's the same way that I now learned how to react to code of first see the positive things, and then maybe comment on what can be done.
Perfect.
Yeah, but the comments that he made were, some of them were very basic about error handling, etc. Others were very positive. But that made me clear, okay, I need to study this more. I need to do the courses, maybe get certified, and figure out which are the best practices in the community. And that's also how I became a CLAD and later a CLD, because I wanted to make sure that was what I'm doing is the most, it's the best practice. Yeah, that's the story behind this. Yeah.
Wow, really, really interesting, like a Pascal. Like I know, like everybody has been there. So you are now like a LabVIEW champion, as well as like one of the leaders in Netherlands. I think like in terms of like a LabVIEW and everything. So what kind of advice would you like to give to the people like who are just starting out as a LabVIEW developers, or people like who are solo developers? For example, like you said, like if I'm a solo developer, like there's no one for me to like not only criticize, but also tell me the best way to do this, so that like you will be able to save a lot of your time and effort.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's one thing I want to provide in this interview, is the notion of make sure you have a mastermind group. And mastermind was first coined by Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich. And what he says is, find people that have the same interests as you are, the same goals, and make a group of people, so you have a mastermind which together can help become better in LabVIEW. And that is one of the reasons that I started to look around, changed the company to VI Technologies, where I was now. So what I did is I changed my status on LinkedIn to looking for a new challenge. And then Jeffrey Habitz, who's also a champion and who is CEO and founder of VI Technologies, sent me a personal message and asked me, okay, let's sit around the table and talk. And that's how I started at VI Technologies. And that was my instant mastermind group, because from working alone in a company to working in a company with only peers, with only other more experienced LabVIEW programmers. That makes my LabVIEW knowledge skyrocket. So the experience that I have, I learned more in the first half year at VI Technologies than I think in the whole 9 years at my previous company. But that's pure because I was doing it alone versus doing it with teams. And if you are in the situation that I was before, if you are the only LabVIEW programmer and your boss is not interested in supporting courses, there are a lot of things you can do. So there are a lot of videos online. For instance, from GDevCon, there were a lot of nice presentations. Get the audio of that, put it on your radio in your car, and listen to it during your commute. So I drive 30 minutes from home to my work and back, of course. And during that time, I mostly listen to podcasts, presentations of CLA summits, everything I can find about LabVIEW, and that helps. It's like a virtual mastermind group.
Wow.
And then, of course, get a community account and ask questions on the forum. So that's and if it is possible, find a LabVIEW user group in your facility. There are a lot of user groups all over the world, and if you cannot find one, maybe think about starting your own one.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That is how you attract other LabVIEW-minded people and can grow your own potential a lot faster, a lot more. Yeah. So that's one thing I want to give back to the community. Find a mastermind group and get people that are better than you around you, so they can help you. And then if you are at a level that you can give back. Help other people that are struggling or wanting to have help. Yes.
Yeah, that's very interesting point, Pascal. So like I would also like to want to know your journey. Like for example, again going back to your pre-career then the VI Technologies. So you were working alone at that time, and now you are working in a team. So apart from programming, what are the differences you found while you were working together, and what now you are working with a team of developers? So what are the different things you have learned, or best practices, or the challenges you have faced that was completely different from when you were working solo and now working as a team?
Yeah. So the biggest impact was the coding style. So if you develop in a team, it's a very good practice to make sure that everyone in your team uses almost the same tools, the same design patterns, the same architectures. So at VI Technologies, we use object-oriented programming. So it helps if everything is developed in classes. If you see the UML diagram, you get a very fast feel about what modules are available in the program and what the program is doing and should do. And that's very important, because if a colleague is on vacation or just not available at the moment and a customer calls you, you can just open the UML diagram, check the classes, and you have a very good feeling about where the piece of code is the customer is asking questions about, for instance. So yeah, and if you are alone, I did not have any strategy. I just tried to. My first programs were always one. It took me a very long time to figure out parallel loops. So a lot of times I had everything in one loop, which was, in hindsight, amazing that I got anything done with it. But yeah, and then of course the source code control. So at VI Technologies we use SVN. At the previous company, I just zipped everything, which is horrible. There was no control about what I was doing. I was copying everything, and so source code control and making sure that the team all are using the same tools and they use the same strategies. just to do the communication between each other a lot easier. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's really awesome, Pascal. So apart from that one, I have like interviewed like various LabVIEW champions as well as the LabVIEW personalities. But this is the first time like I'm not only interviewing the LabVIEW champion from Netherlands, but also like I'm interviewing the first one of the certified LabVIEW embedded developers. So can you like tell like our like audience as well, because many of them might have heard about the CLED, CLD, as well as the CLA. But like, can you explain like what the CLED stands for, and then like what is the value of this one, so that you know, like coming from the certified LabVIEW embedded developer itself actually makes more sense. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure. So the embedded developer is more tailored towards the NI hardware, so the VIO architecture. You have to show proficiency in developing applications on single board trios, on compact trios, on VXI, etc. And it's actually a two-stage exam. So first you do a multiple choice exam, and then second you do a practical exam. It's like the CLAD and the CLD combined together, but done with the theme of the embedded. The embedded targets. For me, these certifications are very important to force you and learn. Force you and learn. Because if I went blindly in those exams, I would have done horribly. Even after I did multiple projects with NI hardware, because they want to make sure that you have knowledge about everything that is required to be a good embedded developer. And in your day-to-day projects, it's not always so it can be that you never touch different parts of the development. For instance, there are questions in the multiple choice questions about MariaDB, so databases on Compact Trio, and I never use that. So if you get that question, you have no chance of getting that. And it forces you to get into the documentation, read about it, do some tests, and now it is no because it demystified it. If you have learned about it, you are more inclined to use it in your projects, and if a project comes, you are faster to use the things you learned that you needed to know for the CLED exam. So for me, all these exams are really to force you and learn more about everything you need to know for
yes, Pascal, like you explained like about the certified LabVIEW embedded developer like scenarios, what you can expect in the examination. But can you like a little bit elaborate like what value does this certification provide to the customer success while like you will be delivering the products?
So you meaning having the certification for customers?
Yeah. So basically, like after having all these skills, like working with like embedded targets from like NI, FPGA, RT, and all these kind of things, and then after having this certification, like how how effectively you can build these systems, how rapidly you can build with like higher reliability and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. So for our customers that we have, the certification is mostly a point that draws them in, because often of times they have a LabVIEW application, the developer left, and they need somebody to maintain it, or like in the situation that I have, the developer needs some help, and then they start Googling and see, okay, you have a certification in embedded development, we need an embedded system, please tell us about this and help. So it helps getting the customers. The being more proficient and making sure that your code is on the highest level is something they almost expect from you. So at VI Technologies, we are a LabVIEW contractor, so the customers can expect the best kind of software, the best the best practices in software development. So that's for a commercial standpoint. The CLED mostly, or all the certifications, attract customers. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, that's really interesting point, Pascal. Yeah, you want to add something? You wanted to continue?
Sorry.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. Okay, Pascal. Like moving into the community side, I know like you have been CLA for a while and CLED as well. So do you have any like a LabVIEW user group in Netherlands?
Yes, sure. So at VI Technologies, we grounded the Dutch LabVIEW User Group, which is called the DUTLUG. So if you want to visit us, it's www.DUTLUG. But you will add the links, right, Ron?
Yeah, sure. I'll add it in the like description in the video. Yeah, please sure, like tell us more about it. Like, do you have like a one-to-one group or like a little bit more details so that the audience can understand more about this? So that like maybe we might have like any Dutch viewers, so like they can get in touch with the VIT or you in the communities.
Yeah. So everybody is welcome to join the user group meetings. So coming back to the mastermind, having a user group helps a lot. And there was no user group in the Netherlands, so we decided to make one. So we, being Jeffrey Habets, Roger Custos, and I, we sat together and figured out what was the best way to do a user group. Our user group is 4 times a year in Eindhoven, in the Netherlands. Like I said, it is free. We have around 30 or 40 people visiting every meeting. And we try to have at least 2, but sometimes more presentations about anything LabVIEW. And the idea is to have discussions, learn to know each other, etc. Yeah, if there is a user group in the neighborhood, please find it, go there. If not, everybody can contact me about tips on how to start a user group. What are the things you have to look out for? What are the things which are good to do, which will attract people? And so if you are in the region of the Netherlands and you did not hear about the Dutch LabVIEW user group, please go to the website and visit us. I'm looking forward.
Yeah, really interesting, Pascal. Thank you very much for that information. I think like I hope and I believe that like that information is going to be highly useful to all the listeners as well as the people in your region. So Pascal, like moving on, like in your like entire career, like what was one of the like groundbreaking or like the most interesting or something that was the most awesome kind of moment while going through this like a LabVIEW journey?
So becoming an architect and going to the CLA Summit for the first time.
So where was it, Pascal?
My first CLA Summit?
Yeah.
It was in Rome.
Oh wow.
2014 or 15. I had to look it up, but it was in Rome the first time. So coming to VI Technologies, I always had as target or as goal to become an architect. And then because I was an architect, I was allowed to go to the summit. And at the summit, you figure out that you absolutely know nothing, even because you become an architect. You think, okay, now I've arrived, I've been there, I know a lot. And at the summit, you see the first presentation, you think, okay, this is a whole new level. I have to start learning from here. And and again, going back to the mastermind group, the summit is amazing. It has so many resources. You can talk to so many amazing people, the leaders in the community, and it helped me a lot. So now, actually, before I go to the summit, I make a list of questions that I have, the problems that I have at work, like during the year. And then at the summit, I go to people and just ask them about, how do you do this? Have you ever run in this problem? How do you manage this, etc.? And it helps a lot. It's really important. Yeah. And so last year I shared the summit, and the year before I was co-chair. So 2 years ago in Vienna, I co-chaired with Richard Thomas from Torix Solutions, who's also a champion. We organized the summit, which was a really interesting experience. I learned a lot doing that, and it's also very beneficial for your network. And then last year I chaired the summit.
Wow.
Help of James McNally from Wiresmith Technologies.
Yeah, that's very interesting, Pascal. Yeah. So I know, Pascal, like you have been, you said like you have chaired and all these kind of things. You are very involved in the community as well, and it's very inspiring to see, like like moving new LabVIEW developers and then motivating them so that like their quality of the code can be improved. So apart from this one, Pascal, can you tell us like more about like you have been using LabVIEW from the beginning, like you have told like nearly 2007 you started, isn't it? So
yes.
what do you think like from then till now, like what do you think like how it has evolved from like the LabVIEW you have used in the past, and then like how it has evolved now, the LabVIEW 2018 we're using at the moment? I believe Yana is going to showcase the LabVIEW 2019 probably in the Yana week as well. And we have also got now like a LabVIEW NXG, the next gen version. So what do you think like how it has evolved, and then like what is your experience using different versions of LabVIEW, and how it can help the scientists and engineers and the like consultants like you and me, like help make our customers successful?
Yeah. So that's an interesting question, because for me the LabVIEW versions do not change a lot. The most difference that I had was using object-oriented programming. So before, I did not use it. I looked at it, but it was I did not understand it. I did not understand why. So like these things like inheritance, etc. I did not know it was there, so I did not understand. But coming to VI Technologies, I was forced to use it. Force is force is one word. But they use the Open GDS, which is a tool that helps you script classes, so you get a lot of things out of the box. For instance, if you create a class, you get the create method, you get the destroy method. You can add active processes, adding methods, for instance, is very easily done. So you get a menu, you type in the name of the method, you get a very good icon designer, which is very fast, and you add a method that has a template VI, or is created from a template VI, and then you can modify the code to do what it should do. And that helped me a lot. And from there, the UML design, which is also provided by the OpenGDS. So that was the first time that I could make larger applications without having to fear that that the readability or the scalability, etc., was not provided. You can get a lot larger applications than that I was writing at the moment, and make sure it works. And you can also use the UML class diagram to talk to colleagues and discuss about is this the right way I want to do this, before even writing one single VI of code. Yes. So that's, for me, that's where the biggest changes. Also, for the longest time, I did not change the runtime version, because that was always a problem. If you have a new LabVIEW version, you have to update all the runtimes at the company to make sure that everything is supported. So for me, the biggest changes was the change from
Yeah, task-based approach to like object-oriented programming, I believe.
Yeah, sure. Yes.
Yeah. That's like a very good point, Pascal. I know like everybody actually struggle because let's say like I've got one LabVIEW version I'm working on, and then the customer actually asks you like they are using like different one. Then it's not possible either for me to like upgrade, or like in some cases like some other consultants, they actually have like a different virtual systems on which they have got like a different LabVIEW versions and have to jump in between. So now, Pascal, like I would like to ask, like we know that like there are like hundreds of thousands of people, like people who uses LabVIEW regularly and everything, all over the world. Like whether they are doing the research, they are like consultants like you and me, or they are like engineers, or maybe in the academic and student level and so on. But many people, they are not even aware about like object-oriented programming in LabVIEW, or they are like a little bit reluctant. They don't want to get into object-oriented programming. So you have told your story, like how you got into object-oriented programming, because VI Technologies was using object-oriented programming as a best practices in their system and everything. So
Yes.
what advice would you like to give to the people like who are not using object-oriented programming, and what value would it add to their like the longevity of their code?
So if you want to start with object-oriented programming, I would highly recommend the OpenGDS. There are two versions. There's the NI GDS and the OpenGDS. The NI version is the GDS, but it was bought by NI. The OpenGDS is also available on GitHub. I will provide the links. It's free, and is a very powerful tool for getting you started with object-oriented design. So we are a little bit spoiled in LabVIEW, because in LabVIEW you get very easily object-oriented design. You have to put in a little bit of effort to figure out what is happening, but do not get bogged down with all the how do you say, all the words like inheritance, etc. Just start very simple and make an application using a class and figure out what encapsulation means. So that would be the fourth step. So I would start with encapsulation, then start with inheritance, and then build up slowly and make sure you make a lot of mistakes so you learn a lot from it. And it will help you. For instance, one of the most common uses of object-oriented is a hardware abstraction layer, where you first create the hardware abstraction layer, which is a set of empty class VIs. So they just describe what the structure is of the hardware. For instance, if you have a voltmeter, it will have a method get voltage, and then you can implement a simulated device which simulates the data, and you can implement the real hardware device with your physical communication, etc., like you are already doing. And one of the benefits that you can get from this is that you can run your application in simulated mode, and your application is still runnable. So how often have you wrote an application and you cannot start it on your development computer because you do not have the hardware attached? One of the big things you can do with OO is circumvent that by setting it to simulate it, and it still runs, and you can do your test. So if you start in OO, try to use the OpenGDS. There are videos on the net. There is a lot of resources that you can read for using it. And what I want to convey is start simple. Do not try to use OO in its full extent, because there is a very large learning curve. But it is very powerful. If you can use that power correctly of OO, you will become a very powerful programmer, and you will make your life very easy if you do it.
Yeah,
like
please continue.
Like
continue, Pascal.
The OpenGDS is for current gen, but for the future, we are looking at LabVIEW NXG, which is the next generation of LabVIEW. The OpenGDS is not available for NXG. which is of course a problem for our company because we use it extensively and we are very reliant on the scripting and the tools that are available in it. So VIA Technologies decided to develop a UML add-on for NXG, which is, like it says, is an add-on for NXG, which lets you create UML class diagrams. And the great thing about that is when you create a UML class, it will create the code for you. So it will add the class to your project library. And if you add methods in the UML, it will create the VIs, use templates. You can go from the UML to your code. You can go from your code back to the UML. So it is code linked. Your UML is always up to date with your code and the other way around. And that is very powerful. So now, if you have an application, you can just open the UML again, get an overview, go to the method that does the thing that you need to implement or need to change or whatever, and you are already doing it. So for the UML add-on, I will also provide the link, but it's UML -addon.com.
Oh, awesome! Yeah. So like we'll also like provide that link in the video below, like in this interview and everything. Yeah, that's really awesome. Like Pascal, like you have given like the instruction for like how people can like start out getting into object-oriented programming. So Pascal, like let us move a little bit towards the community. So Pascal, like have you ever like presented in the CLA Summit and NI Week? And are you traveling to Austin this year to present as well?
I have presented at the CLA Summit, but because I was doing the organization, I was helping co-chairing and chairing. I only did a 7-minute presentation. It was about custom controls and the difference between the hovering over effect and the normal buttons. So the normal buttons only have 4 states. I think since Windows 7, you have buttons that have are 8 states or 6? No, 6 states, and you can use that to get an hover over effect. So if you hover with your mouse over the button, it will highlight. I also wrote a small paper about that, and I will also provide a link. But it's very, it's a very nice to make your UI a little bit more exciting than the normal standard view buttons. Yes. So that was a presentation. I did never present at NI Week. I was there 2 times now. This year, I sadly will not be going to NI Week. But my colleague and CEO of VIA Technologies, Jeffrey Rabbit, is going. And he will be presenting about the UML add-on. So if you're going to NI Week, interested about this tool, please go and visit him. Again, in the subscription below, you will find the information. And again, I keep hammering this in about Mastermind Group. So NI Week, the CLA Summit, NI Days, or the NI Industrial Summits, how they are called right now, are very important to go to and talk to other LabVIEW enthusiasts and just tell them, I have a problem with this, or I want to learn more about scalability, etc. How can I do simulated devices? Go to people and ask them. It will help you a lot at your workplace.
Wow, that's like a really great point. Like Pascal has like pointed out, because like once you go to the the community like events like NI Week, CLD Summit, CLA Summit, or like a developer days, or even like your local DUTLUG, or like your like DUTLUG. Okay, so when you go over there, like you will be able to like meet the people from the industry. You know what's going on in the industry. You can learn the best practices in very short amount of time. And like there's like always like a win-win scenario on it. So Pascal, like apart from this one, like we have discussed about like your like a best successes, like when you become CLA and everything. Can you like a little bit like explain us like what was like one of the key challenges you faced while developing the application, and like how did you actually like get around that, so that like we can learn more about your skills.
So I have to think about that. So one thing that happens after going to VI Technologies and using OO was writing bigger applications, and that all is very dependent on your initial design, because if you design in the beginning, or your architecture in the beginning does not support that what the customer wants, it's going to be horrible to maintain that and expand that, etc. And so one of the challenges I had was actually not really the LabVIEW side, but it was figuring out that if a customer comes to you, what will the lifetime and what will the structure be of the application? So if a customer comes to you and says, we want to do one measurement, we want to have one result stored in a CSV file, and then we will never run the application again. Okay, it's very easy. You just make it quick and dirty. You do it it just has to work one time and you're ready. But if the customer said, okay, we imagine that this application will run for the coming 10 years, it will run on multiple systems inside the company, it will be expanded in the future, you then have to have a very structured architecture that you can expand and that you can react on. And getting the architecture is not really difficult, because you have the community to ask what you should use. But figuring out that that is what the customer wants, because oftentimes the customer does not know that he wants that. You have to have a lot of experience in the industry to know if they are building a test stand, how will that grow for him in the future if he is successful, and how do I select my coding strategy correctly so I can support him without having to say, okay, sorry, I cannot help you. We need to do a redesign of the whole software. And sometimes that happens, and if you can explain that to the customer in a correct way, he will understand. But it's always better if you can just help him with a little expansion which is cheaper for him. So listening to the customer and knowing what he wants to have in the future, and communicating that, so keeping up not experiences, so expectations is very important. That was one of the things I needed to learn, and helps me every day, I think. Yes. So that so it's not the coding, it's more the project management. That is,
Wow, very, very interesting point you have pointed out there, Pascal. So related with the same context, you have discussed about a larger project, and then expectation of the customers, and obviously there will be, if it is a larger project, there will be a team of developers, architects, and certified LabVIEW embedded developer like you will be involved. So what do you think, what are the the things a project manager should take care, or the team has to implement, so that it can be delivered on time with a less number of challenges?
Yeah, sure. So I think the project manager is also responsible for making sure that the delivery date is correct. So if you do a calculation for a project, do not do only the bus pass where everything goes correct and we run in no problems, and this will be the delivery date. Always add a few weeks, or depending on how long the whole project is calculated for. And then as a project leader, it's very important to make sure that you support your developers. So I think as a project leader, you have to go and make sure that all the developers can do their best work. For instance, we use virtual machines, which is very easy for using projects, because you can create the environment just for this project. And you can also store the virtual machine on the server after the project is done, so you can get back to it if it's needed. But we had, for instance, a virtual machine with a LabVIEW version that kept crashing. So, and I think as a project manager, you would have to make sure that you get a virtual machine with a LabVIEW version that not crash, so the people can work. That is that. Often managers are seen as people that just push and we have to do this. And I think as a manager, you have to just be there and enable the developers to get everything. And then what's very important is that everybody uses the same tools. You communicate with each other. You use project management tools where, for instance, make issues where everything is described what everyone should do or is working on, and just communicate with everyone and manage manage the project like the project manager says.
That's like a really interesting point, Pascal. Yeah. So Pascal, like apart from that one, like like in some scenarios, like let's say like you are not only writing a code. Sometimes like a customer has already completed the project, and like we come into like this kind of places like you inherit the code from the customer like who have not even taken a single day of like proper LabVIEW training. And I think like you must have encountered this kind of scenario. So what advice would you like to give to the people, and what sort of like action you need to take so that like these kind of challenges will not repeat?
Yeah, sure. So if a customer comes to you with his own code and it's not up to standards, just be very honest to him and say, okay, this is not up to standards, and it's a problem to maintain this code, expand this code. So it depends a little bit about what he wants. So if he wants a big expansion, you just say, okay, we need to refactor this and then do the expansion. But if he wants small changes, you can talk to him. But then what you can say is, okay, let's do this on an hourly basis, because it's not up to standards, we can run into a lot of problems. We are not able to calculate correctly how long it will take us to do that, what you want us to do. And depending on what the customer wants, and again, what is the lifetime of the project, etc., that can be enough. But often it's relatively easy to convince a customer that it is better to do refactoring, which will cost him more upfront, but in the long run, he will be very happy because he will have a lot less bugs. You can do, you can expand the application if needed. If the hardware needs to be changed out, that's not a problem, etc. So, and again, like I said, I had somebody sit next to me and after a few years of only programming alone, if a customer comes and shows the code, I understand. I've seen all kinds of
codes and everything. Yeah, that's very interesting point. Yeah, even like Chris Chileno, like I had the interview with him previously. I think you must have watched that video. He also explained that like he has seen a gigantic amount of code, like a big one. You cannot even see like what it is. But the funniest thing is like a miracle is like it still works and everything. Like so, it was like a crazy things people do. But like you discussed, like if you want to make sure that code has to last a little bit longer and it needs to be extensible, then like and scalable, then there would be a lot of challenges. So Pascal, like we have learned a lot from you, like a very technical interview and everything. It's very interesting. I think like a lot of our like viewers has added a lot of value from this interview. So Pascal, like what are the things like you want to say to the fellow like LabVIEW champions, the developers in the community, people like who are just starting out to using LabVIEW? Because like some of the viewers in my YouTube channel, like they are just like testing the water. So like they have got like some project going on, or like they are in the college, or like they want to know about LabVIEW, and then they come, and then like it's like gold mine that like LabVIEW champions like you and like Chris and Francois and other LabVIEW champions and like people from the community, they are here to guide them. Because like by at the time, like when you and me were like starting out, we didn't have like this kind of resources and like a mentor to give to the direction. And like to the LabVIEW users, as well as the people, the audience will be viewing this, and even like your like VIT colleagues as well, and the people from the like DUTLUG as well. So like what things you want to say to them?
Yeah, so for the people that are now in college and are thinking about starting a LabVIEW career, I imagine that they get a lot of comments about why do you not use a real program language like C# or C++, etc. LabVIEW is just a toy for simple applications. You cannot write big applications, but LabVIEW, this is not true. LabVIEW can do what every other programming language can do. And some things it is more suited about for, like the communication with hardware, and some things other programming languages are better about. But the one thing that I would recommend to people starting with, or that I want to convey to people that are starting with LabVIEW is, it's not LabVIEW, it's the automation. It's because LabVIEW is in automation, it's powering test stands, it's powering production lines, it's that is where the power is. So, of course, LabVIEW is my main business, and I'm a LabVIEW programmer. But what I'm actually doing is helping automatization in the industry. And that is where the real power of LabVIEW lies. And it's very important to understand that. You are not becoming a programmer. You are becoming someone that enables the test stands and the production facilities and the everything that is measured with LabVIEW and analyzed with LabVIEW in the industry. Because for people that are working in the industry and using the tools that are programmed in LabVIEW, they don't care that it's programmed in LabVIEW. They just care about the measurement results or the controlling it does inside a machine. That is where the value for them lies. And and the field of work of LabVIEW is the industry, so the automation, etc. So if you coming from college and you have physics or electroengineering, maybe mechanical engineering, LabVIEW is a very good, maybe I don't know if niche market is correct, but it's a very good specialization to have and to look into. I can recommend it. And then for people that are already proficient with LabVIEW and using it on a daily basis, I would, again, come back to the masterminds, find user groups, go to summits, talk to each other, because that will help. And don't be afraid to tell everyone what your problem is. So what I see during the user groups and during the summits is that people are still hesitant to do code reviews. Just put your code on a beamer and let people say. But code reviews are one of the things that you learn the most from, because maybe you are doing something over and over again, and you think, okay, that's the best way, and then somebody gives you a remark that saves you a lot of work for the coming years that you do. So it helps, and don't be afraid. We all struggled with. We all made ZVI, like one VI that has all the code. We all used globals were the holy grail in LabVIEW program. And who knows, maybe you discover something that you can tell to other people if they have problems, and develop your own tools that support the LabVIEW and network. So that's what I wanted to. I would want to convey to the community.
Wow, really awesome interview, Pascal. Thank you very much for your time. With all your busy schedule, working, delivering the projects, you have given a time for the interview to speak to our audience, as well as the LabVIEW champions and all the people who use LabVIEW. So I've learned a lot. You are the first LabVIEW champion from Netherlands we interviewed. Not only that, I discussed that CLED. You are the CLED as well, and it was our a privilege to interview you and then learn a lot from you. Thank you very much, Pascal.
It was an honor. Thank you, Ram. Bye.
Yeah, thank you very much, Pascal. We'll see you soon. Hopefully in the future, I can meet you during the CLA Summit or in Europe. So thank you very much for the entire audience as well, who tune up to this interview. Next time, we'll be getting in touch with another LabVIEW personality or LabVIEW champion. Thank you very much for watching.